בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
So there we were living with the Israelis. We're in a new environment. KBY Dinner is not Stamazoi in the middle of Yerushalayim, in the middle of nowhere. We have the cows on the farm in the kibbutz right nearby. We're there in a world in Olam B'fnei Atzmo.
My name is Don Well, and I was a member of the first group of Americans, of B'nai Chul, that came to Israel in 1956. We got there by boat, and we arrived Erev Rosh Hashanah a little bit later than we expected to, and we fell asleep during Ma'ariv. It was a very active and dynamic year. It was the year of Milchemet Kadesh, of the Sinai campaign. All the Talmidim of KBY Dinner then, former in the first 2 years and present during the time that we were there, served in the army, so that when the Sinai situation broke open, the yeshiva emptied out. Everybody went and took up their positions. They were preparing for war. The Rosh Yeshiva did everything he could to encourage everybody to keep up the level of learning during the war period. There were 3 shiurim in the yeshiva then, I think. Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Sinai Adler, who was also the posek of the yeshiva. Rav Grossberg was the mashgiach. He didn't teach a shiur. Dov Rappel taught Yeshivat HaKibbutz Hadati, and I may have missed one. We had shiurim once a week from Rav Mordechai Breuer, Zichron Livracha. Rav Bar Shaul, Zichron Livracha, also came in and gave a shmuz once a week. We came to the yeshiva. It was altogether different from what you see today. There were rooms on the side. There was a mechitza in front that separated the dining hall from the Beis Medrash. The Beis Medrash was open to the birds, literally. There was no Italian Oren Kodesh. There were no other buildings around. We lived in barracks outside, and it was during that time they began to plant trees. The Talmidim themselves planted the trees.
Ich bin ein
On June the 5th, 1967, Israeli forces launched an all-out attack on Arab forces in the Sinai desert, and so began the Six-Day War.
אנחנו בתוך העיר העתיקה.
הר הבית בידינו, כאן תמיד, הר הבית בידינו.
The physical facilities taught us that Torah doesn't need physical enhancement to make it work. I remember the chaverus within the yeshiva, my roommates, among whom was Rav Greenberg, the current Rosh Yeshiva, and the learning, and above and beyond the Rosh Yeshiva and his presence in the yeshiva.
He and the Rabbanit used to come and stay here, and we shared a lot of experiences together. I took the Rosh Yeshiva to Lakewood the first time that he ever visited the community. He was such an energetic and independent thinker, and he always took into consideration his wife's views. It was customary that one of the B'nai Chusors would be honored with an aliyah in order to be motzi everybody with the Birchas HaGomel. They chose me. I had just arrived. I had never benched Gomel. I really didn't know how to bench Gomel. The Gabbai gave me a little miniature siddur, and he said, just read this. And I proceeded to make the Birchas HaGomel, and everybody answered, Misha Gemolcha, and I didn't know when to end. So I screamed out, Baruch shepatrani mion sheshal zeh. And the Rosh Yeshiva absolutely collapsed on the bima, and they had to practically pick him up. It was probably one of the most humorous things that ever took place in KBY Dinner. And to the Rosh Yeshiva's credit, over a period of maybe 30, 40 years since, he never mentioned that event once to me to embarrass me. So but it's something that I'll remember forever, and now I'm sharing it with the audience.
I remember coming to Yeshivat Kerem B'Yavneh, rooming with Israelis, going to an Israeli shiur with Rav Moshe Dimitman, who was a very vibrant Ram. Many times, to make a point, he would lift his stender and smash it down. To make an even more powerful point, he would, with great love, punch us on the shoulders. My particular experience was unique insofar as I was privileged to be in Eretz Yisrael in Tavshin Chav Zayin during the 6-Day War. We were digging trenches to try to enable the Rebbes to find shelter in case there was a bomb coming from a plane. We experienced on the 2nd day of the war an air raid in the middle of Shachris. We all ran to the Miklat, and we were fearful for our lives. A week after the Yom Yerushalayim, we were, with the entire yeshiva, went to the Kotel HaMaravi on the morning of Shavuos. It was open for the first time to the general public. These experiences are absolutely unforgettable. To the tremendous credit of the Bnei Chutz La'aretz in Kerem B'Yavneh, everyone stayed. We felt we wanted to be together with the people of Am Yisrael Be'ez Tzara, and we felt tremendous joy when we were with them Be'ez Simcha. Who could forget the sichot that Rav Goldach Zal gave about this amazing topic? And once again, he tried to maintain that balance between the importance of Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael and Torah. And he said, as important as it is, don't forget, these are lessons which have been with me my entire life.
We had four students in a room, 2 Americans and 2 Israelis. It was a little ironic. Americans would come in with all their clothes, and Israeli would have 1 or 2 shirts. But we also saw that how diligent they were, not only in their studies, but after hours late at night, they would be doing all kinds of exercises to get into shape. So when they would enter the military, the tzava, they would be physically capable to do everything that one is supposed to do. We also were often invited to their homes for Shabbat. The first Hanukkah that we were there, we would dance after we lit the menorah in our rooms and in the Beis Medrash. We would dance to the Rosh Hashiva's house and to the Mashgiach's house and the other Rabbeim. And that was really a very, very beautiful experience.
סמוך לשעה 2 אחרי הצהריים פתחו צבאות מצרים וסוריה בהתקפה נגד ישראל.
נחטף מטוס של חברת התעופה הצרפתית אייר פרנס שהיה בדרכו מתל אביב לפריז. הם הגיעו סמוך לטרמינל באנטבה ופרצו לשטח שבו הוחזקו החטופים.
Kerem B'Yavneh was a wonderful time in my life. I was 18. It was my first experience with learning Torah a whole day, and it was wonderful. I think one of the key elements of Kerem B'Yavneh is that it enshrines in its Talmidim and its graduates that no matter what we do for the rest of our life, Torah plays a paramount role, mitzvahs plays a paramount role, and everything else we do can fit into that kind of lifestyle.
It was really the greatest experience in my life to be able to learn Torah at Kerem B'Yavneh, the quality of learning, of course, from a major class Rosh Hashiva, Rav Goldvicht, Zatzal.
And I developed a kesher with Rabbi Goldvicht over the 2 years I was there, not just through the shiurim klaliyim that took me a long time until I could understand them, but I appreciated them very much once I did, but also the chaburos in his house, which stuck in my mind, and I remember some of those chaburos, they ingrained in my heart very, very deeply. And the notes that I have from those years, from those shiurim, and the svarim that I have from the Rosh Hashiva, are things that I turn to constantly in my learning today. Not just in Limud HaTorah, but in Yiras Hashem. The Rosh Hashiva Rabbi Goldvicht, I remember Shabbos Shuvah, and Rosh Hashiva was giving Shabbos Shuvah drasha. before Yom Kippur, and the lights went out. The base medrash turned black. You couldn't see your hand in front of your eyes. The Rosh Hashiva continued without interruption.
Seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable!
שיהודה ושומרון לא לערפאת ולמרצחיו, אלא לעם ישראל ובניו לדורי דור.
ושבו בנים ושבו בנים ושבו בנים ושבו בנים ושבו בנים לגבולם ושבו בנים ושבו בנים ושבו בנים ושבו בנים ושבו
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
The experience at Kerem B'Yavneh taught me a sense of what Yireh Shamayim is, a real sense of awe, of reverence. Also taught me a sense of seriousness. You had young men who were waiting, before they were going to go back to the army. Every evening, every day, every lunch break, they took it seriously. They used their minutes well. They used the opportunity God was giving them to delve into the substance of what Judaism is.
In Kerem B'Yavneh, you're going to be with students who are dedicating 5 or more years of their life to splitting their time between army service and learning Torah in a Hesder yeshiva. I think exposure to that and interacting with those types of young men will have a great impact upon you and your future understanding of the Jewish people, the role of Torah and Eretz Yisrael, Al-Pi Torah's Yisrael. And I think that's a great impact that should not be overlooked, and it has just great benefits for you, your growth and your development.
I remember a tremendous Avos Torah which infused the Beis Medrash, a tremendous sense of idealism, a sense of a connection to Klal Yisrael. I remember when I first came to Kerem B'Yavneh, coming out of high school, I was overwhelmed by a Beis Medrash filled with people learning, and the davening was uplifting, based upon personal experience. A year in Kerem B'Yavneh is one which leaves an indelible impression, one that is going to mold and shape a person for a lifetime.
My years in Kerem B'Yavneh are what inspired me to make serious Talmud Torah a permanent part of my lifetime. I used to sometimes take walks with the former Rosh Hashiva, the founding Rosh Hashiva of Chaim Yaakov Goldberg, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. He would tell me stories sometimes about his growing up with the Gedolim in the old days and what it meant to really learn and to really have a dedication towards Talmud Torah. I know that I gained a tremendous amount from Chaim Yaakov Goldberg, just hearing him, watching him, seeing his seriousness about learning, the way he built the yeshiva, the way he cared about each Talmud, the way he invited us oftentimes into his office. Aside from the penetrating way that Rav Blachman taught us how to read, he taught us how to analyze, he taught us not to take things at face value, to always question, to always ask, to always look things up. He gave knockout shiurim on Chumash. He would analyze the Chumash, not just the Gemara. He would give us shiurim in machshava and hashkafa. Rav Blachman used to always say, "Ani tzarich limtzot et chelki b'Torah." I want to find my chelik. You don't have to necessarily always accept everything that was. You have to ask, you have to question, you have to find out, and accomplish your own accomplishments in learning.
The way your life changes by being a student in Kerem B'Yavneh and being a Talmud, the changes are everlasting. Certainly the learning and the hashkafa and the values that are instilled by the yeshiva, you take with you forever.
What Kerem B'Yavneh teaches you is that anything worth doing, you have to go all in. And that goes, quite frankly, with respect to learning and your avodas Hashem, but also in many ways in terms of your career and your professional life. If you want to be successful, you have to show complete commitment. The Limud HaTorah, the Yamim Noraim, the Nigunim, the intensity of the tefillah are extraordinary. KBY taught us, and I think the Rosh Hashiva Olav Shalom taught us, that you have achrayus to your peers, you have achrayus to your yeshiva, and you have achrayus to your institution that you're learning with, and that has had an influence on your life. After a long day at work, perhaps the last thing you want to do is go to a board meeting of some yeshiva or another yeshiva, but it's what Rav Goldberg taught us and what the other Rebbeim taught us of commitment to institutions.
I got to KBY Avner the first night we got there. We arrived late at night, and Rabbi Rivlin was there without his tie, without the jacket, and he was there to greet us with a tray of hot cake. And I said, this is like the Zaidi of the yeshiva. They only told me later he's the mashgiach. It's a yeshiva that taught us what Torah is all about. I got to Rameno Blach Mashiach, and he was on fire, and it was Leibedek. And we got into the learning, and there's a Kol Torah that says, and nobody wants to leave the Beis Medrash. You're in the Beis Medrash, you're sitting, you're steiging, it's alive. There's a bren, there's a fire, there's a passion. Mishmar night, Thursday night, it's going on until Vasikin, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And there's a chevra that's still going stark, that's still learning with the diligence and asmoda. You had people learning Bein HaStarim because there was a fire, there was an excitement. Barosh Rishon, it was about Torah, it was about Hasmonas HaTorah. It was about sitting and steiging. I want to become like the Rosh Hashiva Shlita, who learned by, he was Mashamish, Gedolei Yisrael, like the Chozanish, like the Briskerov.
We had boys coming from really all over the world, but I think there was a common denominator amongst my classmates. We all came there because we realized this is a 1 or 2, or for the Israelis, 3 years, where we could be in the middle of Futsat Yavne and dedicate ourselves to grow in Torah, learning, machshava, and spirituality. And really, KBY Yavne gave us those unique tools that we used in our day-to-day lives. I came to KBY Yavne not knowing anyone and left KBY Yavne with a group of amazing friends.
And KBY Yavne is a lot of tremendous qualities. The Rebbeim, the Rosh Yeshiva over the years, when I was there, was Rav Greenberg. And the quality of the Talmidim is just really second to none. Before I came to KBY Yavne, it was my plan to learn for a year or two after high school and to move on to college and to get a job and to move on with life professionally. And I did that. I learned for 2 years after high school and I went to college, but I decided afterwards to get smicha, and a lot of that was motivated by my experience in KBY Yavne.
KBY Yavne, as a yeshiva, is a place that really demands excellence. And I was really pushed to do my best in terms of learning and in terms of my Ben Azim L'Chavero as well while I was there. And I think that's really enriched every stage in life that I've gone to since.
The friendships that I've developed and the relationship that I've built during yeshiva and continuing until now in my chavra has been obviously a very helpful aspect in my growth. It's not just learning Gemara, it's that you're exposed to a bunch of different ways and there's something for everyone. The Rebbeim foster environment of becoming independently healthy in your Avodas Hashem and in your learning, have an environment that lets you be yourself and still grow in learning in your own way.
The Almas HaTorah, the Cheshek HaTorah, the She'ifas for Gadlus and Torah to become a Talmid Chacham, that's what so many of us have picked up. That's what we want to give over to the next generation. Siyata D'Shmaya will be able to take that example of KBY Yavne outside the Dalit Kosei Beis HaMedrash, disseminated, promulgated worldwide. Let Hashem give nachas ruach to Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal, and of course to the wonderful Rebbeim, because this is a yeshiva that has changed lives. It certainly has changed my life forever, and I will forever be indebted an incredible and indescribable sense of a Karsa Tov, me'umka de liba, to the Schashva Yeshiva, the Schashva Makam Torah, and KBY Yavne. We're not just Talmidei HaYeshiva, like Rav Olber told us, we were B'nai HaYeshiva.
As we celebrate 60 years of accomplishment, we look forward to the next 60 years. Ad Mea B'Yashim Shana.
ישיבת KBY יבנה, במשך 60 שנה שהיא קיימת, העמידה דורות של תלמידי חכמים. מתוך שאיפה שתלמידי KBY יבנה יהיו גדולי תורה, תלמידי חכמים אוהבי תורה, זה נעשה מתוך תלמוד תורה ואהבת התלמידים. תלמידים שמגיעים לכרם ביבנה מחוץ לארץ, אנחנו מייקרים אותם, אוהבים אותם, ושיקחו עם הכוחות הלאה ויקימו בתים נאמנים בעם ישראל לדורות הבאים.
It's my bracha that all those Talmidim who choose Kerem B'Yavneh going forward will be able to relive similar experiences. And the yeshiva should continue to go under its new leadership, Mechayel El Chayel, to be a beacon of light to all those who love Torah, who love Eretz Yisrael and Am Yisrael, until the Mashiach comes from Her of Yamein.